June 28, 1914. A warm Sunday morning in Sarajevo. A young man stands on a street corner, clutching a pistol, his hopes of changing history seemingly dashed. His assassination plot had failed just hours earlier. But then, through a twist of fate so improbable it would be rejected as too convenient in fiction, a wrong turn by a chauffeur delivers his target directly in front of him. 2 gunshots later, Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie lay dying in their motorcade. Within 5 weeks, Europe would be engulfed in flames. Within 4 years, 20 million people would be dead. Welcome to the wrong turn that changed the world. I'm your guide through this pivotal moment when the actions of a 19-year-old Bosnian Serb nationalist named Gavrilo Princip set in motion a chain of events that would redraw the map of the world and usher in the modern era of warfare. What if I told you that World War I, the war to end all wars, nearly didn't happen? That the spark that ignited the global conflagration almost fizzled out on multiple occasions that fateful day? That history turned on a chauffeur's wrong turn down a side street? You should believe me, because that's exactly what happened. The year was 1914. The great European powers existed in a precarious balance. The German Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Russian Empire, Great Britain, and France had constructed a complex web of alliances and treaties designed to prevent continental war, a system that would instead ensure its rapid spread. The Balkans had become Europe's powder keg. The Ottoman Empire, long called the sick man of Europe, had lost much of its Balkan territory. New nations emerged, while Austria-Hungary annexed Bosnia and Herzegovina in 1908, inflaming Serbian nationalists who dreamed of a unified South Slavic state. Into this volatile landscape stepped Archduke Franz Ferdinand, nephew of Emperor Franz Joseph and heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. Ferdinand was not universally beloved, even within his own royal family. His marriage to Sophie Chotek, a Czech noblewoman of insufficient rank, had scandalized the Habsburg court. She was denied royal privileges, and their children were excluded from succession. Yet Ferdinand was seen as a moderate on Slavic issues. He favored reforming the empire into a triple monarchy, giving Slavic peoples equal standing with Austrians and Hungarians, a position that ironically made him a target for those seeking to break the empire apart rather than reform it. In the spring of 1914, Ferdinand accepted an invitation to inspect army maneuvers in Bosnia. The visit was scheduled for June 28th, a date with pointed significance. It was St. Vitus Day, a Serbian national and religious holiday commemorating the 1389 Battle of Kosovo against the Ottoman Empire. To Serb nationalists, the Archduke's visit on this sacred day felt like deliberate provocation. In Belgrade, a shadowy nationalist organization called Ujedinjenje ili Smrt, Union or Death, better known as the Black Hand, saw an opportunity. Led by Serbian military intelligence chief Colonel Dragutin Dimitrijević, codenamed Apis, the Black Hand recruited 6 young Bosnian Serbs for an assassination plot. The group included Gavrilo Princip, Nedeljko Čabrinović, and Trifko Grabej, all under 20 years old, all suffering from tuberculosis, all believing they had little to lose. They were supplied with 4 pistols and 6 small bombs from Serbian military stores, then smuggled across the border into Bosnia with the help of sympathetic border guards. Their mission was simple: kill the Archduke during his visit to Sarajevo. The Austro-Hungarian authorities had been warned of potential threats, including a telegram from the Serbian Prime Minister suggesting the visit be cancelled. These warnings were inexplicably ignored. Security would be shockingly minimal for such a high-profile target in hostile territory. As June 28th approached, the conspirators positioned themselves along the published route of Ferdinand's motorcade through Sarajevo. They were spaced along the Apel Quay, the main road running along the Miljacka River. Their plan was straightforward. If one failed, the next would attempt the assassination. The morning of June 28th dawned sunny and clear. Archduke Ferdinand and Sophie departed from Ilija Spa, where they were staying, by train to Sarajevo's City Hall. There, they would meet with local dignitaries before continuing their tour of the city. At 10:10 a.m., the 6-car motorcade set off from the train station towards City Hall, traveling along Apel Quay. In the 3rd car sat Ferdinand and Sophie, along with Governor Oskar Potiorek and Count Franz von Harrach. As the open-top cars passed the central police station, the first assassin, Muhammad Mehmed Basic, lost his nerve and failed to act. The motorcade continued. Minutes later, as they approached the Kumurja Bridge, the second conspirator, Nedeljko Čabrinović, made his move. Čabrinović struck the percussion cap of his bomb against a lamppost and hurled it toward the Archduke's car. The driver saw the object and accelerated. The bomb bounced off the folded-back convertible cover and rolled into the street, exploding under the following vehicle. The blast injured about 20 people, including officers in the 4th car. Čabrinović swallowed a cyanide pill and jumped into the river, but the suicide attempt failed twice over. The cyanide only induced vomiting, and the river was just 13 centimeters deep. He was quickly apprehended by police. Ferdinand's car sped away to the City Hall, passing the remaining assassins so quickly they couldn't act. Princip, stationed further along the route, had missed his opportunity. At City Hall, a shaken Ferdinand interrupted the mayor's welcome speech. "Mr. Mayor, I came here on a visit, and I get bombs thrown at me. It is outrageous." After composing himself, Ferdinand insisted on continuing with the day's schedule, but with one critical change. He wanted to visit the wounded officers at the hospital. Governor Potiorek decided to avoid the city centre, where more assassins might be waiting. The drivers were instructed to take a new route straight along the Appel Quay. Critically, someone forgot to inform the lead driver of this change. After the City Hall reception, the motorcade set off again. Sophie, despite the morning's danger, refused to leave her husband's side. "I will not leave you now," she reportedly told those who suggested she stay behind. The procession was to follow the river, but the first car made a critical error, turning right onto Franz Joseph Street, following the original route into the city centre. Governor Potiorek shouted at the driver, "What is this? This is the wrong way." The driver stopped. In that moment, on a narrow street with no room to turn around, fate intervened. The cars began backing up to return to the planned route. By terrible coincidence, they had stopped directly in front of Schiller's Delicatessen, where Gavrilo Princip was standing in Reflexion, having given up on the assassination after the motorcade rushed past his original position. Princip could hardly believe his eyes. His target, who had escaped the first assassination attempt, was now stationary, just feet away. Princip drew his FN Model 1910 pistol and fired twice from point-blank range. The first bullet struck Sophie in the abdomen. The second hit Ferdinand in the neck, severing his jugular vein. Ferdinand's last words were reportedly, "Sophie, Sophie, don't die. Live for our children." They were both declared dead within the hour. Like Chabrinovich before him, Princip attempted suicide, but bystanders intervened before he could shoot himself. The cyanide he swallowed also failed to kill him. He was beaten by the crowd before police took him into custody. News of the assassination spread rapidly across Europe. In Vienna, Emperor Franz Joseph received the news with remarkable stoicism. His relationship with Ferdinand had been strained, and he had disapproved of his marriage to Sophie. Some reports suggest he even remarked that a higher power had restored the order, which I unfortunately could not maintain. The initial public reaction was surprisingly muted. Ferdinand was not universally beloved, and political assassinations were not uncommon in that era. Few predicted the cataclysm that would follow. But behind closed doors, Austria-Hungary's military leadership saw an opportunity. Konrad von Hötzendorf, chief of staff of the Austro-Hungarian army, had advocated for a preemptive war against Serbia more than 25 times in the previous years. Now he had his pretext. Evidence of the Black Hand's involvement was quickly established. Though the Serbian government's direct involvement remains disputed, Austrian authorities were convinced of Serbian complicity. On July 23rd, nearly a month after the assassination, Austria-Hungary delivered an intentionally unacceptable ultimatum to Serbia, demanding they allow Austrian officials to participate in the investigation on Serbian soil, an obvious violation of Serbian sovereignty. Serbia accepted most of the demands, but balked at surrendering its sovereignty. This partial rejection was all Austria-Hungary needed. On July 28th, exactly 1 month after the assassination, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. The alliances that were meant to prevent war now ensured its spread. Russia mobilized to defend its Slavic ally Serbia. Germany honored its commitment to Austria-Hungary and declared war on Russia on August 1st. France was bound to support Russia. On August 3rd, Germany invaded neutral Belgium to attack France, bringing Great Britain into the war. By August 4th, all of Europe's major powers were at war. What had begun with 2 pistol shots on a Sarajevo street in just 5 weeks plunged the continent into the abyss. What became of the young men whose actions triggered a world war? Gavrilo Princip could not be executed because he was 19 years old, just shy of the 20-year minimum age for capital punishment under Habsburg law. Instead, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Imprisonment was harsh. He was kept in solitary confinement, chained to the wall, and developed tuberculosis. His body, already weakened by disease, deteriorated rapidly. Princip died on April 28, 1918, just months before the war's end. His body was exhumed after the war by Yugoslav authorities and reinterred in Sarajevo, where he was celebrated as a national hero by South Slavs. Of the other conspirators, Nedeljko Chabrinovic and Trifko Grabesh also died of tuberculosis in prison. 3 others, Vaso Chubrilovic, Cvetko Popovic, and Muhammad Mehmed Basic, survived to see the formation of Yugoslavia, the unified South Slavic state they had killed for. Colonel Dragutin Dimitrijevic, the Black Hand leader, was executed by the Serbian government in 1917 on separate charges, a convenient elimination of a figure who knew too much. The assassination in Sarajevo triggered a conflict of unprecedented scale and horror. 4 years of industrial warfare left 20 million dead. 4 empires, German, Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, and Russian, collapsed. Borders were redrawn across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. The war's resolution at Versailles planted the seeds for an even deadlier conflict 2 decades later. The financial strain contributed to the Great Depression. The Russian Revolution, sparked during the war, would establish the Soviet Union and set the stage for the Cold War. In the Balkans, the Kingdom of Yugoslavia was created from the ashes of the conflict, fulfilling the nationalist dreams that had motivated Princip and his fellow conspirators, though this too would eventually collapse in bloody ethnic conflict in the 1990s. Today in Sarajevo, the spot where Princip stood is marked by a plaque. The Latin bridge nearby was once named Princip Bridge, though it was renamed after the 1990s Bosnian War, when perspectives on Princip shifted yet again. For decades, the car in which the royal couple was assassinated was displayed in the Vienna Military Museum. The blood-stained uniform Ferdinand wore that day can still be seen at the Austrian Museum of Military History. Sophie's blood-stained dress remains at Konopishtia Castle in the Czech Republic. Perhaps most poignant is the stopwatch from Ferdinand's pocket on display at the Vienna Military Museum. Its hands remain frozen at the exact moment it was stopped by a bullet, 11:45 a.m., the moment history changed course. The assassination in Sarajevo raises profound questions about history and causation. Was World War I inevitable, with the assassination merely providing the spark for a conflict that structural forces had made unavoidable? Many historians argue the complex alliance system, imperial competition, and militarism had created conditions where any crisis could have triggered the war. Or did the specific circumstances of the assassination matter? What if the driver hadn't made that wrong turn? What if Princip had left his post? What if the security had been tighter? We're left with the unsettling realization that monumental historical events can hinge on seemingly trivial moments. A wrong turn, a split-second decision, a chance encounter. Perhaps most troubling is how quickly controlled escalation spiraled into uncontrolled catastrophe. Each power believed it could manage the crisis, containing the conflict to the Balkans. None anticipated the devastation that would follow. As historian Christopher Clark wrote in his book, The Sleepwalkers, Europe's leaders were like sleepwalkers, watchful but unseeing, haunted by dreams, yet blind to the reality of the horror they were about to bring into the world. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand demonstrates how history can turn on improbable moments. Had that car not taken a wrong turn, had the driver been properly informed of the route change, had Princip left his position, perhaps 20 million lives might have been spared. Perhaps not. We can never know. What we do know is that on that June morning in 1914, the actions of a tuberculosis-stricken 19-year-old armed with a pistol set in motion events that would reshape our world. The modern Middle East, the rise and fall of communism, the United Nations, the European Union, all have their roots in the consequences of those 2 gunshots. Historian Margaret Macmillan observed, very rarely in history do the actions of a single individual completely change the course of history. Gavrilo Princip may be one of those rare exceptions. The assassination reminds us that history is not always driven by grand forces and inevitable trends. Sometimes it turns on coincidences, mistakes, and moments of extraordinary chance, a wrong turn at the right moment. If you found this video informative, please consider subscribing and sharing it with others. Understanding the fragile moments on which history turns helps us appreciate the delicate balance of our own time. Thank you for watching.